Hello, everyone. On the 17th of September, we are going to have another of those series of configurations, which we already had a couple of times, which includes the Pluto Aries square, cardinal square, which is actually a dissolved cardinal square because Jupiter is making a sextile to it. And you may remember that the first one, it was in August when Mercury was at 25 degrees Virgo. Then we had Mars probably around the 7th of September, again at 25 degrees Virgo. And now on the 17th of September, we are going to have the Sun at 25 degrees Virgo. I told you many times, I talked to you many times about the Pluto Aries cardinal square, how it is this year's and last year's main karmic astrological feature. They are very slow moving celestial objects. Pluto takes 250 years to orbit around the sun. Aries takes 600 years to do the same. So whenever these two meet, it's very rare, and the rarer an aspect, the more impact, the greater the impact it is to the world. And Jupiter very conveniently dissolves this cardinal square, because actually it is also retrograding at the moment. And from Aquarius, it is making a sextile to Aries, filling Aries with optimism, but also blowing up everything that is signified by Aries, drastically altered outward circumstances, chaotic things, disruption. This could be any form of disruption. It could be wars, could be rebellions, flooding, natural disasters, all sorts. And what Pluto is trying to teach us is that no matter what sort of circumstances there are around us, we need to prevail, we need to survive. Pluto is the planet of survival by profound transformation. And this is what these times are teaching us. Now, whenever we look at something in the mundane sense, it is worth looking at similar configurations, especially when they are complex configurations, complex planetary pictures, what the first issue was and how it evolved in time. And this is exactly what we are going to tackle today. And then we are going to look at what the Sun does on the 17th. So you may remember that the same configuration again started sometime in August with Mercury at Virgo 25 degrees. And this was exactly the time when the Taliban won the war against the USA, when the US Army decided to deploy and go away and just leave everything there. This should make you worried, very worried as an American, that $83 billion of your taxpayers' money was squandered and left there for tribal men to use these 21st century weapons used by people who are what they are. Let's put it this way. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but it should really make you wonder, because it's either gross incompetence, okay, absolutely horrible and horrifying incompetence, or, which is even worse, there was some sort of ulterior motive to empower these tribesmen, to give them the 21st century weapons. And then the question you may ask, why? What's the overwhelming agenda behind this, to leave all these weapons there for their disposal? Both are very terrifying ideas, let me tell you. So anyhow, so Mercury there actually brought to the world the information, what is happening and what a complete disaster this is. And because Mercury is the planet of communication and rational thinking, and pieces, bits of information. So whenever Mercury becomes prominent, and you may remember at Virgo 25 degrees, it was at the apex of the Jupiter, Aries, Mercury yod, finger of fate, and also at the trine point, because it was trining Pluto, it was an Earth trine. So actually the Cardinal Earth engine was triggered by Mercury at that position. And as I said, Mercury is always the vehicle of getting information, getting pieces, bits of information, always rational, always logical, always understandable. So anything that may have been hidden or may have been a camouflage, all of a sudden becomes plain and simple. Jupiter was also in the configuration then, and Mercury and Jupiter represent two different sides of a coin. Both are linked to knowledge, but by Mercury is understanding on the everyday level. Jupiter is more like a synthesis of wisdom and higher knowledge, let's put it this way. So that was the first step. And then around the 7th of September, you have Mars suddenly there. So we had Mars at 24, 25 degrees Virgo. And about for 3, 4, 5 days, the configuration was exact, within 1.5 degrees. Any configuration that involves planets has an orb about 2 degrees maximum. Otherwise, the energy is leaking out of it and it's not working. And when you have points in the chart, like, the ascendant or the midheaven, those only have 1.5 degrees because they are non-radiating objects. So they are just points in time and space. So they are related to space, both space and time. And since they are not radiating, they take a smaller orb. So what did Mars do? Mars is always the action planet. How you exercise the will, how this will is manifesting, and it's also aggression, of course. Will and aggression are not synonyms. I must warn you. If you have the will to do things, and if you are powerful enough to exercise your will, then you don't need aggression. Okay, this is something most people don't understand, because this world has become very aggressive and violent. And so most people think that if I'm violent and aggressive enough, I will get what I need. Whereas true power comes from how you can manage your will. So that's the difference actually between the two manifestations of Mars. Both are linked to Mars, of course, the warlord, okay? And that is why we always have to watch what Mars is doing in world events, because it is not a fast-moving planet like Mercury, Venus, or the Sun, but fast enough to set things in motion. Okay, and so when Mars was at that point where the Sun is going to be on the 17th, what you had was a next stage in the story. Okay, that was the time when we had that terrible disaster at the Kabul airport, and 13 American citizens were murdered in the attack. So violence manifested in these terrible, drastically altered outward circumstances that we need to kind of transform, or we need to utilize the energy to transform. Just one more thought before we move to the Sun, because it's actually going to be linked to the Mercury. Mercury was there for the first time, so it was Mercury that triggered the whole series of events. And Mercury is bringing, as I said, it's bringing to the surface knowledge that might have been hidden, and it's always rational. That's very important. So Mercury is understandable, okay, and it highlights pieces of information, and you can actually decipher what is happening if you pay attention. Now, here comes my advice. those people, especially the young people who are clinging to their cell phones and downloading all sorts of information and Googling everything, they will be in trouble because, my dear young fellow, you might not have a cell phone at you at a very important moment. So I suggest you start reading real books and start getting real knowledge. Because if the powers that be decide that from now on there's no Wi-Fi, let alone there's no electricity, then you will be in trouble. So try to get real knowledge, okay, not artificial knowledge, real knowledge, and not just you don't just use Google, use books, for God's sake, okay? Real books, okay, not ebooks, okay? Because you might actually need those in the near future, unfortunately. Let's hope I'm wrong, but I have a very bad feeling about how people are getting manipulated and how knowledge is getting manipulated, and the fact how they are really downgrading true knowledge and meritocracy, and how what you know is no longer important. What you are, what sort of group you belong to, is more important than how you actually make your job, how you conduct yourself in a job or in any kind of situation. That is scary, believe me, because your merit is in your head and in the way you conduct yourself. And if this is taken away just because someone thinks that you had enough privilege, and now this privilege has to be taken away from you and given to someone else, that is scary. That is called communism. And it happened to me. It happened to us Hungarians. We lived through communism. I spent half my life in a communist regime, so I know everything about it. And no, it's not a good idea. Okay. Anyhow, that was just an aside, because actually the sun is going to be at 17 degrees Virgo. On the 17th of September, the sun will be at 24, 25 degrees Virgo. Let's take a look again at this configuration. I already showed you at the beginning. Let's share it again. And here you have it. And we have the same exact planetary picture. We have the dissolved square by Jupiter, and then we have the finger of fate. The sun is actually at the apex of the finger of fate, and the sun has two functions. It is filling anything with power and consciousness, and it's also illuminating, highlighting. So these are the two functions of the sun. Again, it makes it perfectly conscious in a different way than Mercury, because Mercury provides you with the necessary information, pieces and bits of information. So you need to decipher, but you have the tool. But the sun gives you the energy to realize. So it gives you a realization through enlightenment, through illumination. Okay, so it's actually even more, because it highlights the whole situation. And so we again have the cardinal Earth engine involving the sun this time, and the Pluto Aries cardinal square. And for this configuration, to be exact, it's going to be on the 17th of September, but you can start utilizing it on the 16th, and it's going to last until the 18th. So it's a 3-day window, and anyone who has placements at 24, 25 degrees of the signs, especially earth and water signs, can utilize it best. I hope you will manage it, and I wish you a nice 3 days utilizing these energy patterns. Bye-bye.